We are moving on with our series in Acts this morning. We're going to be in Acts 8 eventually. We got some other things to cover first, but we are going to be in Acts 8 eventually. What I want to do real quick, though, is first talk about where we've been the last couple weeks, because I think it's important that we recap. Because one of the things that we did, if you noticed, is that we actually went through the entire chapter of Acts 7 twice. We did it twice, right? So 2 weeks ago, we talked about Acts 7, and we focused a little bit more on the idea of persecution and being persecuted. But then also, we looked at the other side of that story as well, and how we also persecute others, right? So we kind of looked at ourselves in both ways in that. Now, when we talked through that, we focused a little bit more on Stephen's speech. Now, if you remember correctly, Stephen did a really good job of painting these really big, broad strokes of Jewish history, okay? And he used some pretty big names. He dropped some pretty big ones. Abraham, Joseph, and Moses, right? And whenever he was talking about these big names, what he was trying to get the Jewish people to realize is that God, throughout history, has provided these people to speak truth into you, has provided leaders that you were meant to follow, but how have you treated them? Every single one of those big characters in that story have had to endure some form of persecution, okay? Let's think about Moses, for example. The guy was gone for a day, and he came back and they built another god. Because they mistrust him, they got impatient, however you want to say it. But he was literally gone for a short time, came back, and they built themselves a god that they felt would do more what they wanted, rather than trying to follow a God that was trying to provide truth. Moses left to literally create, to receive the law, and they built another god during that time. Joseph had his own family throw him into prison, sold him into slavery, all of that. But yet we find through the character of Joseph that that's actually the kind of person we all wish we were, and wish that we were meant to mold ourselves after. Stephen used some pretty big names to point out how we always have this history of pushing back against God's truth in our lives. We would persecute them, but yes, we are also able to see